All right, I'm about to head to the airport to be off to Arizona. We got some good news though here from the Nashville area. Look at George Kittle. Look at all the weight that he's putting up at the barn coming off the Achilles injury. So George is keeping that upper body strength, and that is a good sign in his quest to return. Maybe even by week one. Now that might be pushing it, but still, we do know that the timeline for him is going to be accelerated because the best news possible happened with that Achilles tear. It was as high up as possible, with the blood flow being greater in the area of the tear. Now, speaking of Arizona and speaking of George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall has posted this from his offseason, and Ricky Pearsall is from Arizona. I'm sure that quite a bit of Ricky Pearsall's training this offseason will be happening back home in Arizona. We went over this a couple weeks ago. It really looks like Ricky has gotten stronger physically over the course of this offseason. Wouldn't be surprised if he checks in at 5 pounds or so more of muscle. But you look at this montage, you could see that the upper body, there's a little bit more bulk on Ricky Pearsall than there had been in the past. He seems focused. He did get his little vacation in. He went with, I think it was Jacob Cowing and Isaac Guerrero to Japan. They were posting from Tokyo not too long ago, but he's been right back on the grind ever since then. And Ricky Pearsall here hanging out with George Kittle. Ricky from Arizona. That also is where Brock Purdy is from, and that's where the owners' meetings are going to be at the Phoenix or the Arizona Biltmore in Phoenix. So in honor of that, we can take a look at some of the 49ers classic Arizona content. There's Brock Purdy, Perry High School in Arizona. Another Purdy picture. There was a great game where Purdy's team played Ricky Pearsall's team, and Purdy's team put up like 60 or 70 points. But it wasn't Ricky Pearsall's fault that his team lost. Ricky Pearsall had like 200 or 300 receiving yards in that game. That's a look at Jacob Cowing back in high school ball in Arizona. And of course, there's Ricky Pearsall, and here's Christian Kirk, who was a high school legend back in the desert. We got a couple pictures of Christian Kirk. He's older than these other 49ers players, so Brock Purdy and company, they all look at Christian Kirk as somebody, Larry Fitzgerald also was a player for the Arizona Cardinals at the time that a lot of these guys were in high school there, so they would go watch the Arizona Cardinals games. And I think when Brock Purdy won the state Gatorade State Player of the Year, he took that photo with Larry Fitzgerald. No, that was it with no, it was with Patrick Peterson. But Larry Fitzgerald obviously was playing for Arizona at the time. Patrick Peterson was the cornerback with whom Brock Purdy took that photo. And the other guy that they all looked up to was Christian Kirk, because he was older than them. And Purdy, probably in elementary or middle school at the time, was following Christian Kirk. I would think probably 4 years younger or so, 4 or 5 years. So maybe middle school at the time was following Christian Kirk, who was dominating in high school at Scottsdale. Now all the Arizona guys are with the 49ers, and we get to go to Arizona for the owners' meetings. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan. Lynch is going to be tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. So be sure to hit the notification bell icon. Make sure to follow along. There will not be cameras or microphones present at that interview. So after that happens, I'll be able to relay to you via a video the intel that John Lynch has for us at the NFL owners meetings. And then the next day is the NFC coaches breakfast, and that is going to happen again at the Biltmore. And that's Kyle Shanahan. We will have video of that. That will be posted on the channel. So make sure that you are ready for all of that content to roll in. I have time right before I head to the airport to answer a few of your questions. And we have a question here from Run Free36. For kicker punt returner, how do the 49ers plan to address that key position? Sky Moore was a gem for the 49ers, and they really benefited from special team success last year. Well, right now, if the season began at this very moment, Christian Kirk probably has the most kick and punt return experience on this roster. Nate Hobbs hasn't done all too much of it. That's the cornerback that the 49ers had, formerly of the Green Bay Packers. They do have Junior Bergen, whom they drafted out of Montana last year and was a record-setting guy at Montana, but I think still very clearly required a lot of seasoning at the start of last season. So he began on the practice squad. They can still make an addition through the NFL draft. If Casey Concepcion is the pick out of Texas A&M, he is electric and has extensive return experience, and I could see him being the favorite for that job immediately. And there could be a name that we don't know or aren't talking about right now that the 49ers select with one of their 6 picks in the NFL draft that would be a good returner. But you're right, Sky Moore was good for San Francisco last year. Now, he wasn't perfect for the 49ers. He fair caught a few too many punts inside his own 5-yard line, which was a big no-no. So the 49ers, I think, can still get better at the punt returner position. Brian Robinson Jr. also had a nice kick returner too for the 49ers last year. I remember the one against the Texans. He's no longer with the team. So they've lost both of their kick returners. They've lost their top punt returner. They do have to make some work at that position. I do think that Christian Kirk gives them at least a little bit of a floor at punt returner. You know, Christian McCaffrey returned punts in college as well. If you need somebody just standing back there and catching the punt, then the 49ers have guys that can give you that. But if you want a specialist who isn't going to be doing much else on the offensive side of the ball to do that, 49ers probably have to make another addition. Or you go to a rookie like Concepcion who would do stuff on offense, but as a rookie would also be asked to handle the return game. Good question, though. Oh, yeah, Purdy versus Shuck in the state playoff game. Yeah, there's some good quarterback play in the state of Arizona. I will YouTube that game. I haven't seen it yet, but both of those guys now NFL QBs, and you know, with Brock Purdy, I think that if you go back and you look at how well he played at every single level prior to the NFL, you'd start to understand more why he's having the success he's having now. It's just that he was always underestimated. I mean, Nick Saban straight up told him in his office that you know, he wasn't going to play at Alabama. So Brock Purdy didn't go there, and he went to Iowa State, where he felt much more welcome. And then, of course, at the NFL level, everybody passed him up at least 7 times, all the way through to the 7th round of that NFL draft and pick number 262. But really cool to go back to the origin story. And yes, we are flying there in a little bit today. We got Sam Roush fans here in the house. That is the Stanford tight end, Sam Roush. I think he is a versatile player. I think that he won't go in the first round. That could be right in the sweet spot for the 49ers. They've got multiple 4th-round picks in this NFL draft. They don't have a 3 anymore. They traded the 3rd-round pick away to Dallas to get Osa Odigizua, but definitely keep your eyes out on Sam Roush, because I do think that adding another tight end, smart, potentially very smart for the 49ers. Got people fantasizing about Myles Garrett, Bosa, Osa, Deommodore Lenoir, Fred Warner, and Dre Greenlaw. That would be crazy. We've talked a lot about the potential of adding Myles Garrett over the past couple days. The Browns at this moment not willing to trade him. Now we'll see if that changes in Phoenix at the owners' meetings. If they get their rules proposal changed, currently the NFL only allows draft picks to be traded up to 3 years out. The Browns want to move that to 5 years out. The only reason I could think of why the Browns would want that is if they're preparing to deal or are interested in ultimately dealing an extremely valuable asset. There may not be a more valuable asset in the league outside the quarterback position than Myles Garrett, and he already did demand a trade last year, and they also did restructure his contract with Myles Garrett's permission just the other day to extend the trade window by about half a year. So all of that remains to be seen, but it definitely is worth discussing at this point. Joe is very smart. Good comment. So many possibilities in the draft. He has learned not to get attached to them. Yes. The draft is a crapshoot, and the draft has thousands of possibilities. The 49ers only have 6 picks. So zeroing in on any one player, especially when they're not picking until number 27 or not scheduled to pick until number 27, is probably not all too smart. Garendo has been a kick returner, but there have been ball security issues. And if you have ball security issues as a kick returner, well, there are questions, I think, as a punt returner as well. Punt returner is a very, very dedicated, tough position. Tougher than kick returner because you got guys flying in your face as you're trying to make that catch. You're going to have a little bit of a cushion as a kick returner. I know the guys are flying down the field, and then it's tough to hold on to the ball and see the lane. It's more of a running back position now than ever before due to the new dynamic kickoff rule. But punt return is the same, and it's one of the most treacherous positions in all of football. You have to have somebody who is very, very comfortable back there, or disaster can happen. Let us know the news as soon as I find out. All right. Well, it's going to be at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow, so be sure to be tuned in. Hit that alarm bell. Be ready for the update coming out of the Arizona Biltmore. I have to check to see if my flight is on time. I've got clear security, which is going to be potentially important at airports around this time. It says the flight leaves at 2:35 p.m. Central. I'm on Central time right now. So gate departure is in an hour and 38 minutes. Where's our inbound plane? Our inbound plane is coming in from Denver, and it's landing in 19 minutes. It's coming in 10 minutes early. So it looks like everything will indeed be on time. So you say Pearsall some skills, but he leaves a lot to be desired. Promising start last season. Well, he was hurt. You say that he quickly turned to subpar. He was playing with a PCL tear in his knee all year. The more important part of this equation right here that you just said is the fact that he had a promising start. He was number 8 in yards per route run before the PCL injury. So I think when we've seen Ricky Pearsall healthy, final 2 games of his rookie year, he went off. He was what? I think it was close to 20 catches over those final 2 games. Over 100 yards per game over those final 2 games. That was after he got shot in the chest during the preseason. So he came back as a rookie from being shot in the chest to producing at the very end. He produced over training camp and over the course of the first 4 weeks before he got hurt. When Ricky Pearsall's healthy, he's excellent. And he did what he did last year over the first 4 games without the 49ers having a true X receiver. Remember that the whole thing is supposed to be contingent on the 49ers having a true X, and they do this year with Mike Evans. So if Pearsall can play the Z, and if he can be healthy, he has shown that he can be a hell of a weapon. Let's go back to the picture of Ricky playing some high school football. There he is, Ricky Pearsall, back in the state of Arizona. Is he wearing number 12? Was he number? Yeah, it looks like he was number 12 back in high school. He went off in that game against Brock Purdy's team. It's a legendary game in Arizona high school football history. But the thing is that Perry High School, that's where Purdy went, they put up a good 70 points, I think, in that one. So Pearsall, it might have been more of a one-man show. They were unable to hang. Why wouldn't Pearsall want to stay a 49er? I mean, this is where they drafted him, and he's got a great quarterback in Brock Purdy. When he's been healthy, he's had good success with the 49ers. He wants to stay a 49er. Any talk of the 49ers trading Pearsall is absolute and utter nonsense. There never has been a thought in the 49ers' mind, and there shouldn't be a thought in the 49ers' mind. Pearsall is their first-round pick from 2024. He's been really, really good when he hasn't been recovering from a shooting or when he hasn't been recovering from a torn knee. And, both of those things, obviously, bad luck. And he's got to get healthy. He's got to do his best to stay that way. And if he can play the Z flanker position, getting some of those running starts, not being lined up right on the line of scrimmage, let Mike Evans handle the load of being the X wide receiver. If Pearsall can be in that position, he could be a really, really, truly productive Z for the 49ers. Jawan Jennings was playing the Z in week 3 of 2024 when he went off against the Rams at SoFi. That's the position that the 49ers want Ricky Pearsall in. Looking here through some questions. I don't see many questions at all. I've answered almost everything that I see. You think that Pearsall's going to go off next year because Evans is going to bring double teams? Yeah, double teams and just occupying the X, bring with a big body, will bring the safety over, shading toward that side of the field. And I think that could potentially open things up for the Z and for the F. That is Jacob Cowing. We could be talking a lot about the Arizona boys next year. And the Arizona boys are obviously Pearsall, Brock Purdy, and right. Well, Jacob Cowing and Christian Kirk, everybody. There's Kirk. Where's Cowing at? We got to find. There's Jacob Cowing. There's Jacob Cowing. There's Ricky Pearsall. There's Christian Kirk. And there is Brock Purdy. We can be talking a lot about these guys in 2026. Will BA be gone after the draft? TBD. I don't know how the 49ers exactly are thinking about this, but I do know that there doesn't really exist a deadline until Brandon Aiyuk actually shows up and forces the 49ers to start paying him. So at this point, it's in a holding pattern, and the 49ers, I don't think, stand to benefit from releasing him. They could put a post June 1st tag on it, but it's not bothering anybody in the building. So why would you give up a potentially valuable asset? And by valuable, I mean if there is some potential value there, then valuable is an apt descriptor. With depth at wide receiver, doesn't it make more sense for the 49ers to draft other positions first? I don't think the 49ers have real depth at wide receiver. They don't have anyone outside of Ricky Pearsall under contract for 2027 who has scored a touchdown in the NFL. Now, Aiyuk, yes, but we're not counting Aiyuk for obvious reasons. So again, the 49ers do not have a wide receiver who scored a touchdown for them in a 49ers uniform under contract beyond this season. So they don't have a lot of depth at wide receiver. It is a big long-term question. That is why drafting a receiver is absolutely on the table for the 49ers in the first round. Let's see what time we board here. All right, we're boarding in 50 minutes. All right, we could still make that. We're good. Couple more questions before we have to shoot off to the airport. I honestly have not been following March Madness, so I don't have a pick. I'm not a big college basketball fan. Somebody asking me about my pick, so I don't know. You guys can debate that amongst yourselves. I am locked in on the Niners, guys. It is 365 days a year, full focus on 49ers football. Talking about the Camelback area of Phoenix. I'm actually going to be staying downtown this time. I'm excited. I heard there's a lot of cool eateries down there. It's going to be really hot. I heard it's going to be 100 degrees in Phoenix, but then I'm going to be headed up to the Biltmore for the owners' meetings. The 49ers are willing to bring Joey Bosa in at their price. Joey Bosa doesn't want to sign unless it's at his price. Whether or not those prices change as things evolve, the NFL draft is an inflection point for things to change, remains to be seen, but that's where it stands right now with the 49ers and the Joey Bosa. Who will be left guard? Well, we'll see if the 49ers have anything up their sleeves, like Joel Bitonio, or potentially a draft pick, maybe somebody who might be a tackle in the future but plays guard at the start. But out of the guys who are on the team right now, Brett Toth and Robert Jones are the two leaders in the clubhouse, with Connor Colby, the second-year player, having a chance to make a move. Are the 49ers replacing Jake Brendel at center? Probably not this offseason, but this is his final year under contract. So it is a position where they have to have a plan. Yeah, we should bring on Lynch or Shanahan to the show. That would be a lot of fun, or some players. Good little tip. I am looking for maybe one more question. One more question would be perfect. Is it possible for the 49ers to move back to San Francisco? Probably not anytime soon. I know that a lot of people have wondered about that, but the minority owners are not determining the direction of this football team. Majority ownership is where the decision-making power truly is. Minority owners are in it for the investment. And currently the 49ers are down in Santa Clara. Of course, the stadium would actually have to be built in San Francisco for them to be there. All right, time for me to head on out to the airport. Got to make it in time. So hit that notification bell, hit the like button, do whatever you need to. Make sure you do subscribe, though, because we got big intel coming up from the desert.